My wife kissed my brother to congratulate him on his good grades and told me, "Why are you so jealous?" 2 days later, her sister became a doctor. So I kissed her sister right in front of her, handed my wife the divorce papers, and walked away to start a new life with her sister. When I first met my wife, I genuinely believed I had found the kind of woman every man dreams about. She was beautiful, intelligent, and always seemed so caring, like she could never hurt anyone. She had a way of making me feel like I was the only man in the world who mattered. I remember how she would look at me with that soft smile, how she'd hold my hand even in crowded rooms, as if to tell everyone, "He's mine." I never thought that one day, that same smile would turn into something that would cut me deeper than any knife could. Our marriage started off like a fairy tale. We laughed together, cooked together, and talked late into the night about our dreams. I was proud to call her my wife. I worked hard to give her a comfortable life, paying the bills, supporting her dreams, and making sure she never felt alone. I trusted her completely. I would have moved mountains for her if she asked. But life has a cruel way of showing you the truth, especially when you least expect it. One afternoon, my younger brother came home from university, overjoyed. He had been struggling with his grades for a long time, and that day, he finally brought home a report that made him proud. He walked in holding his papers like a trophy. His face lit up with excitement. I was happy for him, truly happy. I knew how hard he had worked. My wife was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone when he entered, and as soon as she heard the news, she jumped up from her seat, squealing, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" Before I could even say a word, she ran straight toward him, grabbed his face with both hands, and kissed him on the lips. Time stopped. The room fell silent. My heart dropped into my stomach. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I blinked, hoping I had seen it wrong. But no, she had done it. My wife had just kissed my brother. My own blood, right in front of me. I felt something inside me shatter. My hands trembled, and my voice got stuck in my throat. My brother looked shocked too, frozen, like he didn't know how to react. I tried to stay calm, but every fiber in my being was screaming. I took a step forward and said quietly, "What was that?" She turned to me, completely unbothered, her eyes full of that same casual confidence that used to attract me. "Oh, come on," she said, laughing. "Don't be so jealous. It was just a congratulatory kiss. He worked hard. You should be proud too." Proud? Couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife had just crossed the most basic line of respect, and she was acting like I was the crazy one. I looked at my brother. He looked down, embarrassed. I could see he regretted it, but the damage was done. My wife's words echoed in my head, each one cutting deeper than the last. "Why are you so jealous?" That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene over and over again. I wanted to scream, to ask her how she could do something like that, but I didn't. I stayed quiet. Maybe I wanted to see if she would apologize on her own. Maybe I wanted to believe that there was still a part of her that understood what she'd done was wrong. But the next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She was humming while cooking breakfast, smiling at me like she always did. She even asked, "Are you still upset about yesterday?" "Babe, you're overreacting." Overreacting. That word burned inside my chest like fire. I looked at her, and for the first time since our wedding, I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. She was still beautiful, still graceful, but there was something different, a coldness, a sense of arrogance that made me realize I was no longer dealing with the same person I fell in love with. I ate breakfast in silence. She kept talking about random things, clothes she wanted to buy, a movie she wanted to watch, some plans she had with friends, as if the whole kissing my brother thing was just a tiny joke. But to me, it was the moment everything changed. Over the next 2 days, I spoke very little. She tried to joke about it with her friends, even saying in front of me once, "My husband got so jealous because I kissed his brother. Isn't that cute?" Her friends laughed. I didn't. Inside, I was building a wall of quiet, unshakable resolve. I realized I could never argue with someone who saw my pain as entertainment. She thought I was weak because I stayed silent, But what she didn't know was that my silence was the sound of my revenge taking shape. And then fate decided to play its card. 2 days later, her younger sister graduated from medical school. It was a huge deal for their family. They were throwing a big celebration at her parents' house. Everyone was excited. My wife was running around the house that morning, picking out dresses, talking about how proud she was of her sister. She kept saying, "You better behave this time. No jealousy, okay?" I just smiled. I didn't say a word. We drove to her parents' house together. She kept talking the whole way, while I sat quietly, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my mind calm but sharp. I knew exactly what I was going to do. When we arrived, the place was filled with family, friends, and neighbors. Her sister looked beautiful in her white coat, her smile radiating genuine happiness. Everyone congratulated her. My wife was beaming, hugging her sister, taking pictures, laughing loudly. Then she looked at me across the room and said loudly, "Don't be jealous this time, okay?" The whole room chuckled. That was it. The final straw. I felt my heart go completely still. The pain I had been holding on to for 2 days suddenly turned into something colder. A calm determination. I knew exactly how to end this game. I waited until everyone's attention was on us. I walked toward her sister slowly, my eyes fixed on my wife the entire time. My wife's smile began to fade as she realized I was moving toward her sister. I stopped just a step away, looked at her sister, and said softly, "Congratulations, doctor." Before anyone could react, I leaned forward and kissed her sister gently. The room fell dead silent. You could hear the sound of someone's fork dropping onto the floor. My wife's eyes widened, her face turning red with rage and shock. She looked like she couldn't believe what just happened. I pulled back slowly, looked straight into her eyes, and said calmly, "Oh, don't be jealous. It was just a congratulatory kiss." Everyone gasped. My wife took a step forward, her voice shaking with anger. "How dare you?" But I didn't flinch. I simply reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded envelope, and handed it to her. She snatched it from my hand and tore it open, only to see the divorce papers inside. Her expression changed from fury to shock to panic. Her voice broke as she whispered, "You can't be serious." I looked at her with calm eyes, the kind of calm that comes from a man who's finally done fighting for someone who never valued him. I said quietly, "You made a joke out of my love, my loyalty, and my dignity, so now I'm taking them back." She tried to speak, but her voice trembled too much. The whole room was watching, silent, uncomfortable, but no one said a word. I turned away and began to walk toward the door. Her sister stood there, still stunned, whispering, I didn't expect that." I looked at her kindly and said, "Don't worry, it wasn't about you. It was about showing someone what respect really means." And with that, I walked out of the house. That day, I didn't just leave my marriage behind. I left behind every piece of myself that had ever settled for less than I deserved. As I stepped out of that house, the cold evening air hit my face like a wave of freedom. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight that had been sitting on my chest for months was finally lifting, slowly, gently, like smoke rising into the sky after a long burn. Behind me, I could hear voices, her mother's shocked gasps, her sister's soft cries, my wife's trembling shouts. But I didn't look back. I just kept walking. Sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is simply leave. When I reached my car, I sat there for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, letting the silence sink in. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked different, calmer, older, wiser. I thought about everything that had led me to that moment. Every time I had forgiven her for her careless words. Every time I had made excuses for her behavior. Every time I had told myself that love meant patience. But love without respect isn't love. It's self-destruction disguised as devotion. That night, I drove without a destination. The city lights passed by like memories I wanted to forget. My phone buzzed repeatedly, but I ignored it. I knew it was her. Calling, texting, trying to undo what she had broken beyond repair. But I was done being the one who always tried to fix what someone else kept shattering. When I finally reached home, the silence of the empty house felt different. It wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. I sat on the couch, looking at the wedding photos on the wall. There we were, smiling, holding hands, surrounded by family and hope. I remembered how happy I was that day, how sure I was that I'd found my forever. I took a deep breath, stood up, took those photos off the wall, and placed them face down. The past belonged to yesterday, and I was finally ready to start living for today. The following days were strange. Her family tried to contact me, her friends sent messages, and even my brother came over to apologize. He told me he didn't mean for any of it to happen and that he had been embarrassed by her behavior. I forgave him. It wasn't his fault that she had lost her sense of boundaries. I wasn't angry anymore, just numb. The kind of numb that comes when you've given so much of yourself that there's nothing left to burn. Weeks passed before I heard from her again. One evening, as I was sitting by the window reading, I got a message from an unknown number. It was her. She wrote, "Can we please talk? I made a mistake. I miss you." For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but something in me needed closure. So I agreed to meet her, not to reconcile, but to end things properly. We met at a cafe we used to visit when we were dating. When she walked in, she looked different. Tired, pale, and distant. Gone was the arrogant smile, the mocking tone. She sat across from me, tears already forming in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "It was just a stupid joke. I never thought you'd actually leave." I looked at her for a long time before speaking. "You didn't think I'd leave because you thought I'd never have the strength to. But here's the thing. When a man has nothing left to lose, he becomes unstoppable." She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. I told her that respect once lost doesn't grow back like grass after rain. It's gone forever. She cried quietly, saying she regretted everything, that she wished she could undo that moment. I believed her tears, but I knew they were too late. You can't heal a wound by apologizing to the knife. When I left the cafe that day, I knew there was no going back. My chapter with her was over, completely, irreversibly over. But life has a way of filling the spaces left empty by pain with unexpected light. Her sister reached out to me a few weeks later. She wanted to apologize personally for the scene at the party. I agreed to meet her, expecting a short, awkward conversation. But instead, what I found was a kindness that felt refreshing after all the chaos. She was gentle, honest, and sincere, the opposite of everything my marriage had become. We talked for hours that day, not about the past, but about life, about dreams, about healing. Slowly, without realizing it, we began to talk more often. At first, it was casual. A text here, a coffee there. But over time, it turned into something deeper. She understood what I had been through, not because she wanted to replace her sister, but because she knew what it felt like to be hurt by the same family dynamics that had once blinded me. She told me things I never knew. How her sister had always believed that attention was love. How she had a habit of crossing lines just to see if anyone would stop her. I realized then that my ex-wife's betrayal wasn't just a moment of impulse. It was a pattern of disrespect that would have destroyed me eventually. And somehow that realization brought me peace. Months passed. I finalized the divorce, signed the papers, and officially closed that chapter. My ex tried to reconnect several times, sending long messages about missing me, saying she saw me as the one that got away. But by then, I was too far gone emotionally. I had rebuilt myself from the ground up. I wasn't the same man who used to tolerate disrespect just to keep the peace. Her sister and I grew closer, naturally, quietly, without any drama. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about connection. She was the one who helped me rediscover the joy of simple things. Morning walks, honest conversations, laughter that didn't hide any pain behind it. And as time passed, what started as friendship slowly turned into something real. I remember the day I finally told her, "You helped me find myself again." She smiled, looked down, and said softly, "Sometimes love finds you after you lose everything." Those words stayed with me. Now, looking back, I don't see that kiss between my wife and my brother as the end of my world. I see it as the beginning of my freedom. It taught me the hardest lesson a man can learn, that loyalty without appreciation is a wasted gift, and that sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's strength. When I see my ex-wife now, occasionally at family events or through mutual friends, I don't feel anger anymore. I just feel gratitude. Gratitude that her actions pushed me toward a life where I'm finally respected, loved, and understood. The past doesn't define me anymore. It educated me. It shaped me into someone who no longer settles for less than he deserves. And as I sit beside the woman who now stands by my side, her sister, the one who showed me that real love doesn't humiliate, it heals, I feel nothing but peace. Sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. So, to anyone reading this, remember, never beg for respect. Never stay where you're treated like a joke. Know your worth, stand your ground. And when someone crosses the line, don't shout or cry. Just walk away with quiet dignity. Because one day, that walk will lead you straight into the life you were always meant to have. Like, share, and subscribe for more real stories of betrayal, strength, and the power of walking away with your head held high.